Hi, welcome. I'm Sarah from Ogo Creations, and today I'm going to be using our alcohol inks on a tumbler. First thing I do, I have to mix our epoxy. I've already separated out very little bit of epoxy. I have 2 teaspoons of part A and part B, and I'm mixing part B into part A in my measuring cup, making sure that I scrape the sides and get it all in the cup, wiping off as I go. Get as much out as I can. My measurements were pretty spot on, so I want to make sure that everything I get goes into the cup. Then give it a stir. I use Pro Marine tabletop epoxy. I've tried the other ones and they work really good. You just kind of have to learn what works with each one. I did make a few mistakes in the beginning with my epoxy, and I was using my space heater too soon after putting it on it. I was getting lots of bubbles and dimples and fish eyes, and it just wasn't working out. So I had to make sure that I was following the directions. So it's becoming very see-through, very clear. There are lots of bubbles. I'm not a slow stirrer. I actually have 0 patience. So I tend to stir a little aggressively and then warm it up to get rid of the bubbles. I use my embossing gun to just hit it for just a few seconds, pop some bubbles, and get it a little bit warmed up. Stir again, making a few more bubbles, but we're gonna overlook that. I think I can get rid of them. Let's see, it looks good. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to transfer it from this cup into this cup. I always like a clean cup when I start to make sure that it is all smoothed out. A lot of the times I don't actually scrape the sides of that cup. I don't want to give it another couple of good stirs. We're going to hit it again with the embossing gun, and I'm going to, lots of bubbles, perhaps stir it just a little bit. Okay. Oh, it's a great consistency. It's not quite thick. It's a little watery, I guess, for a lack of a better word. That's the way I want it. I'm gonna clean up my mess and put my cup on a football. Okay. Take my cup. Unfortunately, in another project, I accidentally epoxied my arm to my PVC pipe, so it's stuck there. It's my large cup single turner. I'm gonna make sure it's straight. Sometimes I'll come down and I'll eyeball it. Looks good. I've already primed this cup. I used Rust-Oleum flat. It's a matte primer. Okay. Oh, it looks good. I always like to make sure that I've got something under. When I use the alcohol inks, they're going to drip, and I want to make sure that I'm, you don't have to do this. I just kind of like to protect the surface just a little bit, make sure it doesn't get off onto the table. Stain it in my paper over here, so it's fine. Okay. First thing you need to do is you need to put a base coat of epoxy onto the cup, and I'm going to do this without it turning first. Okay, I'm just going to take it, smooth it out. I'm going to go back and forth. Go up to the lid. Okay. Bring it all the way down to the bottom. I like full coverage on my cups, so I go bottom to top, bottom to top. And the great thing about the Pro-Marine Epoxy is it is a good quality. So you can get several turns from it. You're gonna have to go back and start this a little bit, turn it, get it to the next side. You can see some spots that I've missed. We'll go back and fill those in. Okay. This is my silicone brush I got off of Amazon. It helps. I like the silicone brushes a lot. It helps a lot because you're able to use them more than one time. They're easy to clean up. You know, I don't have to keep buying the foam brushes. I don't have to keep buying the, you know, the bristle brushes, which makes it really nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull this out just a little bit. There we go. Go ahead and we'll get to the other side. I do also really like covering my cups using my hand. It is so much easier, I find, to control where everything goes, that it is definitely something that I like doing. But since I'm going to be using the alcohol inks after this, I didn't want my hands covered with epoxy. I think we've gotten just about all of the spaces. I need to get the bottom. I go back and forth. You know what? I'm just gonna have to do it that way. I'm missing some spots. I can see them. I'm just gonna switch my glove out. Super easy. This way you can kind of feel what areas have epoxy, which ones might need a little bit more. You just get so much control, so much better control. It's a good thing I put that tinfoil down, just flicking epoxy all over the place. Look at that. Okay. Okay, because I do full coverage, I make sure that I get the bottom not too gloppy. And when I go up to the top, I'm just going to go up and away. I don't want to curve over. I do tape the inside, so I'm not getting any on the inside. Although if I do have a paint stripper that will work really well to remove that. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and call that done. I'm going to take my glove off, leave that right here. Let's take the other one off too. Let's go ahead and start with some blue. We're just going to dip this on. As the cup turns, the alcohol ink will also go into different areas. I am going to put a glove back on because I will need to touch that in a minute. Love how that looks. That just looks so cool. Careful, make sure you're wearing a shirt that is not going to be ruined if you get some of this on it. I'm going to do a little bit on the end. Okay, let's go ahead and go with purple because that's another one of my favorite colors. We're just going to fill in the spaces where we think it looks good. I'm gonna wait for this to come around and we're gonna sprinkle a little bit. Squirt, squirt. Looks good. Green, another great color. This would easily be something that you could add a stencil to before you begin. Also, that would look great. Let's go ahead and do some orange. We're just gonna end up putting all the colors on because this is my first cup with my alcohol ink, and I'm really excited to try it out and see what it'll look like. And I think it looks pretty cool. I am going to put my final epoxy coat on it. We'll have a little bit of the Recollections bling glitter, so make sure we shake it up a little bit. I think that might have been what the problem was with some of the blues. I'm just gonna do these like and, you know, we got yellow. Might as well just do it all rainbows. Come on. We're gonna go back over with some of this blue, which was our first color, to make sure. I'm gonna cover up all these white spaces. My epoxy is already starting to cure, so it's given me a very peculiar look. Okay. Okay. You can use makeup sponges for the the blending part that we're gonna do here in a second. So I'm just going to tap my alcohol ink. That's very interesting. It is kind of turning brown, which was not my intention, but I guess we can all learn from Sarah's mistakes, right? Because if something is going to go wrong, it kind of will. That's just how everything usually works for me. But on the other hand, I learned a lot of good lessons that way. I'm getting a good coat. I'm getting an interesting pattern and color. I'm actually very happy with this. Looks very tie-dye-y. I'm just gently tapping. Oh yeah. That looks great. Very happy with this. Looks good. Since we started with an epoxy as our base, you could add some glitter to this if you wanted to. I'm gonna do it in the coat, in the final coat. That's what I'm gonna do. I love that I added the yellow. Let's go ahead and love it. I do want to see the purple a little bit more. It's also going to continue to blend and turn into something else as it rotates around. Just trying to cover up the white spots. I don't really want to see a lot of the white. Although I don't necessarily want to keep turning it brown either. Although I'm quite content with that. Actually, I think that we need some more yellow. But because it's so saturated with other colors, I'm sure it's just going to turn into like a green or an orange, which is okay. I'm very happy with that. Okay, I'm gonna let that spin. See you in 12 hours.